Okay, so the Olympics are set in Paris, France this year. Let's be honest, Amanda, this is going to be iconic. But 10,000 miles away and a 20-hour plane flight later, the world-famous Teahupo'o will make its debut as a host city as well, hosting the surfing competition that kicks off July 27th. You know what that is? You know what that is.
I do. Tahiti.
Tahiti checks the box for Paris organizers, who promised to spread the Olympics throughout French territory. And Tahiti, of course, became a French territory in 1880. Go figure.
Fun fact.
We're so sophisticated. But this does not come without controversy, of course. Dun, dun, dun. All right, stay with me. So in order to judge the surfing competition that they're going to have, the beachhead currently has this wooden tower that was built for competitions in the lagoon off the coast. Like, Amanda, it's been there forever. Like, surfing competitions have been going on there forever. But in perfect bureaucratic fashion, it's not compliant with the safety regulations of the IOC. Right. And that's pissed off some people in Tahiti and really the whole surfing community worldwide. So Olympic organizers wanted to build this massive, massive aluminum tower to take its place, but got a ton of shit for it because it was going to damage the coral reef that sits off the coast. And this coral reef has everything to do, by the way, with like why the waves in Teahupo'o in the first place are so awesome. Like, it has to do with all that. Yeah, okay. So video posted last year by Save the Teahupo'o Reef showed a barge being used to build the tower, like that they were going to plan on doing, totally stuck on the reef and like broken coral everywhere around this barge. So they're totally fucking this thing up. And Tahiti's pissed, and they're accusing the IOC and Paris of not living up to their claims of sustainability and being environmentally friendly for the Olympics.
Well, this is a great way to start this podcast. That's kind of depressing.
It's totally depressing. Yeah.
So what are they going to do about it?
So they had to compromise, right? So they took a while and decided on this like super scaled down version. It's still going to be an aluminum tower. They moved it, so it's not going to mess with the reef. It's somewhere else, but they built it to still make it safe. And I don't think either group is happy with the results.
So I think I already know the answer to the question I always ask. But what is this episode going to teach us about being more cultured and curious? After hearing this, how can you not want to learn more about ways to make things more sustainable for future generations and be more environmentally conscientious?
That's it. You nailed it. Love it. Let's go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Sorta Sophisticated, a podcast rooted in becoming more cultured and curious, where we endeavor to suspend judgment, expand our worldview, and learn to appreciate varying perspectives and values.
But really, it's a show where we hope to enlighten anyone who cares on topics that might make them more interesting and well-versed human, and just dangerous enough to hold their own in this sophisticated world. Sort of.
All right. And today we will be long jumping, you like that? Into the world of the modern Olympics. We'll explore how a small event in ancient Greece that started with a bunch of guys in togas evolved into a global spectacle featuring everything from synchronized swimming to competitive speed walking.
Is that actually still in the Olympics? Like, seriously? It's mind-blowing. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
Oh, I have.
But they walk so dumb. Like, I don't have a better word for it. Because they like maintain contact with the ground at all times and makes them shake their backside all fast. And it's just the weirdest thing.
It is really dumb to watch. You're absolutely right. And I agree. That's a wrap. Let's go. Let's just close this episode out right now then. Might as well. Apparently you don't like it.
All you need to know.
Right. Done, done, done. We're done.
All right. Well, I mean, stop. We can continue with the episode. I just don't like that event.
Okay, fine. You don't have to like that event.
Not my favorite.
Okay, fine.
And I mean, the pentathlon.
Wait, so you don't like that event either?
I mean, it's okay.
Are there any events you do like?
It's not that exciting. I love gymnastics.
Okay.
All gymnastics.
Let's go.
I mean, that's the only one that I know for the summer spring. So.
All right. Well, you're going to learn a lot more right now. So our word of the day is dicker.
I'm sorry, what?
Dicker.
Okay.
That's D-I-C-K-E-R. Dicker.
Did somebody send this one in, or did you pick this one, Peter?
I picked this one. Okay. Nobody sent it in. We do need people to send them in. Our challenge, of course, Amanda, is to work this word into the podcast somewhere and make it seem like we meant to.
Okay, but should I even ask for you to define it? Because I feel like we just need to make sure it's PG. That's all.
Relax. Okay, totally. Dicker is a verb, and it means to bargain, like to haggle, sort of. I have a modicum of filter here somewhere.
Do you? All right. Before we start dickering around.
No, it doesn't count. No.
Okay, fine. Give
No.
me a little history then of the Olympics for those of us who have no idea.
Okay, I will, but I got to go back to this dickering thing. So it's not bickering or arguing. Like dickering around doesn't count. Like this is haggling. Okay, so you have to figure out how to work this in as like some sort of like when we're talking about money or bargaining on something. All right, like there's
All
a big
right.
difference between dickering and bickering. Okay.
Fair.
All right, we ready to go? History?
Yeah, give me some history.
History. All right, picture this. Ancient Greece, 776 BC, people. That's before Christ. And if you're not Catholic, that's before the Common Era. I love the way we do this. All right. Everyone's laying out on the Mediterranean because, well, let's be honest, there's no wars going on. It's all olive trees and grapevines everywhere. So the story goes that Zeus gets a little bored and decides to spice things up with a little friendly competition. But it was probably more like a bunch of people who thought they were in charge, thought it would be a good idea to honor Zeus. Like Zeus didn't come up with the idea. So they like made a festival in order to honor Zeus and the other gods. So sort of like today, the idea was that these Olympics would help unify the Greek city-states. Like we try to unify the world. I guess not like unify, but like tolerate each other. Because the Greek city-states had the same problems as we do today as different countries. So actually, the main purpose of the festival wasn't even sports or games, but this thing called the sacrifice of hecatomb of Zeus. What's a hecatomb? Is that what you're about to ask me?
Yeah.
What's a hecatomb? Let's go. The sacrifice of 100 ox or oxen. Do I say oxen or do I say ox? What's the sophisticated word for ox? I think it's oxen.
Oxen.
Yeah. And they would do this at the altar of his temple in Olympia, Greece, which is why it had to be in Olympia, Greece all the time. Fun fact, that altar was the same temple as the statue of Zeus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
I mean, let's go. And you were just talking Zeus from Alexander from
Right.
our last week's podcast. Everything's connected.
It is.
It's so crazy.
It's amazing. All right, so all they did was basically want to kill a bunch of oxen and make the gods happy. Okay. And like if murdering 100 oxen wasn't enough, the actual highlight of the first Olympics was something called the stade race. Stade. It was a sprint covering one stade, or 192 meters to be exact. That's like a 300-yard dash instead of the 100-yard dash, right? Okay, so picture this. A bunch of probably pretty built Greek guys sprinting 192 meters, all to impress Zeus. And let's be honest, anyone else watching, especially the ladies. And to top it off, they did it nude.
What?
Nude. Totally naked. Yep. Naked.
I have so many questions. Like the first question would be, was it because it was hot? And so they just
Like because they were
naked?
hot or because like it was
Maybe.
hot outside?
both, either. That was like a question
No,
number
I
2.
think they thought that was what they were supposed to do back then, like unencumbered and like that
Okay.
would they'd be fast that way. So
like shaving my legs when I swim to go
yeah,
faster.
like we're just gonna be naked and like let it all go.
All right.
So after a minute, they realized like the stayed race wasn't enough because that was over in like 20 seconds. So they had to add new events like wrestling, boxing, chariot racing, my favorite, and the pentathlon. Yeah.
All naked.
All naked.
Stop it.
No, all naked. I'm not making this up. Look it up. Google it. Yes.
I
All right.
will. Because I can't.
In fact, I got a few more little fun facts I think we should throw in right here about ancient games. Okay? Like, because this is a modern game, so I feel like I can throw in some ancient game stuff right now real fast and get away with it. Yes?
I mean, I love fun facts, so I think you should always throw them in
Okay.
anywhere possible.
I'm throwing them in.
Go,
okay?
let's go.
Okay. All right. So if being naked isn't already super weird and over the top, wrestlers, like in the sport of wrestling, fought covered in oil. Not sure why. Totally did.
So they wrestled.
Yeah. Look, so they
with
were naked.
oil all over
they
their
were
bodies.
like literally like oil. Yeah. Yes. Like,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So Frodo was right. People are insane.
Right? Floyd wasn't
wasn't
even
in
born
oil.
then, but he already, right. It's like female mud wrestling. Like, what do you want me to say? It's like,
No, I feel like
it was like
it's
Greek
worse.
male
All
oil
right,
wrestling.
All right, it's a fun fact.
Total fun. Okay, next. False starts on the track, like when they would run the stage race. If you started too early, are you ready for this? Corporal punishment.
They whipped them.
Like beat them? What the fuck? They would whip them.
Wow.
This is crazy. Okay, and finally in boxing, like we have points nowadays. Like that's how we figure things out. Like there were no points, no time limits, no weight classifications. You just fought till you won. Like it could go on forever. Like Fight Club, like crazy. Yes, I guess they were mildly civilized. They were urged not to grab genitals since they were just hanging out and flopping everywhere and everyone was fighting naked. I can't believe I'm explaining
and
this.
no pun intended, but this is nuts.
I really wish I was alive in 776 in the ancient games because it would have been so fun to watch. But apparently it was totally normal back then. All right. Okay, so this goes on for like 100 years or so before they like finally decide to add clothes. Thank God. And things start really clicking for like 1200 years. They're like cooking for a while, all the way up to like 400 AD. So the ancient Olympic Games go all the way on into like Common Era. When some dude named Theodosius the First gets a bug up his ass and totally abolishes the Olympics because of Christianity. Everything comes back to Christianity. Yeah, thanks a lot, Theo. Freaking jerk. Apparently, it was considered too pagan because, people didn't believe in Zeus anymore or the other gods. And it was like all about Jesus and God and all that stuff, which I respect and understand. But like, dude, kill the Olympics because of it? Dude, Theo, enough. All right, so we go dark for like 1500 years before some French dude named Pierre de Coubertin decides the world needs a reason to get sweaty again every 4 years. Yeah. So in 1896, he restarts the modern Olympics. So Pierre was really into the ancient Greeks for some reason. I don't know why. Don't ask. I think it's because he was some sort of historian. Like, you'd have to look it up. And he figured if they could run around in togas, then why can't we? So he thinks to himself, what's better than a bunch of people competing for medals while everyone else sits on a couch and watches while feeling bad about how fat they are? Well, that's at least what I do. So good on him. He convinces a bunch of countries to come together and participate in a friendly competition instead of, wars and stuff. And he founds the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, in 1894 and starts the first modern Olympic Games in Athens, Greece, of course, in 1896. Total shout out to the ancient games. Home field advantage. And basically, here we are, 125 years later, still at it, together, for the most part, where people like sprint, swim, and judo chop their way to glory. Well, I keep telling myself I could totally do it if I just had a little more time to train.
I mean, the vision that he had, man. To think that one person could do something like that and bring it to the world, that's awesome. I mean, I will never leave that type of mark on history.
Yes, you will. You don't say that. You might. You could.
I mean, I guess, maybe. But like, that's incredible.
I think we could do it, Amanda. I think we could leave that mark.
I mean, the best thing that we could do is maybe a world pickleball tournament, but they probably already exist.
Fantastic idea. Do you think it exists? I don't even know. Let's do it.
Probably.
All right. Forget this podcast. Let's go. International Pickleball Tournament. Let's go.
Okay.
Every 4 years.
We digress.
Okay, bye.
So the Pierre guy.
Yeah, what about Pierre?
He was also the guy who picked which sports to include in the Olympics, or did the committee, or was it arbitrary? I mean, there's some weird things. Not things,
like walking and pentathlon that you don't like. Are those the weird ones you're talking about?
I mean, not weird. Okay, speed walking's a little weird, but
it's very weird.
They're just weird's a wrong word. Maybe obscure sports.
Okay,
right?
What are you asking? Just what are you asking me?
How do they pick the sports?
Oh, how they pick the sports?
Yeah.
Okay, let's rip it. Let's go through it. I got it. I'm ready.
Okay, go.
All right. So I had to dig a little bit for this, but I got it all figured out. And it is, you're right, a little arbitrary. Sorry. Yes, you were totally right. You'd like to think it's all planned out, but it's a little mix of tradition, little practicality, and some pretty drug-induced brainstorming sessions, in my opinion. So it all starts because Coubertin and some of his buddies want to pay homage to the ancient Olympic. Like, I get it. So, of course, right away, they picked some of the classics.
They probably dickered over that for a hot minute, huh?
Yes. That was so smooth, sister. They totally dickered. They had to figure out what sports people could actually do without needing a whole setup. Something cheap, something easy.
Okay.
Same as back in the day in ancient Greece land, just without the nudity. So they start up again with things like running, swimming, cycling, wrestling, and, of course, throwing stuff around. So then they looked at what sports were popular around the world. Like if people were already hitting balls with sticks or kicking balls into nets, it was probably a good idea to include those. So sports like tennis, gymnastics, and soccer found their way in.
Or football, right? That's probably the more appropriate term.
I love the way you say football. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't say it right.
Thank you, Miss Sophisticated. You're fantastic. Okay. You got it. So after that, they needed to make sure that as many countries as possible felt included because, remember, we're all trying to be nice to everyone. And they didn't want any nation to feel left out because they didn't have snow for skiing or rivers for rowing or shit like that. So a bunch of sports from different cultures were added to keep everyone happy and motivated to participate.
And that's probably how table tennis got in.
Oh, you are tracking. I'm loving this. Absolutely. And basically that was it for a while. Pretty simple, really, right? But they couldn't leave well enough alone. So the Olympic Committee gets together and thinks, hey, what if we added some fun modern shit that barely anybody can do? And that's how sports like snowboarding, skateboarding, and even surfing made their debut. They're always on the lookout for new sports, man. It's all about viewership now. They want to attract younger audiences, and to do that, they need to keep it fresh.
I mean, what 15-year-old wants to watch trampolining or rhythmic gymnastics? Am I right?
Oh, you are right. I would say a big whopping 0.
But wait, when did synchronized swimming get thrown into all of that? Because also, fun fact,
What?
not really. I have a friend who dresses the
What?
artistic swimming team.
No.
Mhm.
Like there's a job for that?
Yeah.
Like she's the costume designer?
Yeah.
I need to meet your friend.
Okay.
Okay. That's
We'll do it.
fantastic. Okay. So actually, synchronized swimming debuted as part of the opening celebration, like the opening games in 1960 as the performance part, like the fun part that you watch before the Olympics start. But when people saw how hard it was to swim and do tricks and do all of it at the same time, they immediately put it in as an Olympic event.
I
Personally,
mean, I would drown.
I think it's weird. But I'll admit, in the last 100 years, there have been some pretty weird ones for sure. Okay, so like synchronized swimming, you just said. But also there used to be croquet. Like shout out to the Regency.
And maybe we shouldn't
Regency
say
era.
weird. Maybe we should say specific.
Stupid.
No.
Ignoramus. Okay, so croquet, right? Shout out Regency era. Let's go. Okay. Tug of war. Really? Tug of war. We're doing
It's
that.
an actually today still?
No, it's not in anymore.
Oh,
These
okay,
used
okay.
to be in there. And Amanda, are you ready? And live pigeon shooting. Seriously, like live pigeon shooting. They would kill pigeons.
I mean, it's a good thing they took that one out then.
Poor pigeons, right?
So sad.
Poof. Oh my God, that was classic. Yeah, I just had a whole vision of a pigeon.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
so that was fantastic. Just blowing up. Okay.
All right, so Pete, that was a nice little history lesson. So thanks for that. And
You're
this visual
welcome.
of, pigeons exploding with feathers.
Yes.
But if I'm going to be able to hold my own in a conversation and try to feel sort of sophisticated, I'm going to need to get familiar with some of the most iconic Olympic moments probably, right, in the last 100 years. And I'm sure each country has their top 5. But since I'm an American, you got to kind of Americanize it for me. Or at least mostly.
Like, I can't do just American. Okay, wait, how about this?
I feel like if you didn't, it would just make for a really long podcast.
Okay, but it's not all about America. So can I just do some American ones with others thrown in? Like, I have a few, but
Okay,
like some
fine.
are American, some aren't.
Okay, fine.
Okay, wait. So because at the very least, I have to start with number 1 by far, Amanda, the tragedy at the Munich Games in 1972, where 11 Israeli athletes and coaches were taken hostage and subsequently killed by the Palestinian terrorist group Black September. That for sure marked the darkest moment in Olympic history. So first of all, it was terrible to happen at the Olympics where the idea was to promote peace. And second, it sort of woke us up to the realization that nothing is sacred. And if we're going to continue having these international events, we were way too vulnerable to political violence. And we had to do something about it. So if anything good came of it, at the very least, it led to massive changes in Olympic security and protecting athletes and spectators. And I'm sorry, it sucked that I had to start with that one, but it was super important. We can't ever forget those 11 athletes, those coaches. There's a movie called Munich. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you watch it. It is so moving. It's remarkable and super sad.
When I asked the question, I thought I was just asking for like moments when the Olympics were happening or at an event. I had no idea
This was
that
right. So
big happened.
So I was born in 1972. Like, of course I don't remember this, but like it was close enough to my era. So like, it's like the first thing I think of when I think of the Olympics, I think of this massacre, and it was fucking terrible. So
All right.
got it. But we're going to lighten things up a little bit. Okay. So mildly more upbeat. Number 2. Okay. Was when Jesse Owens, you've heard of Jesse Owens?
No.
Okay. I love that we are not from the same generation.
We are not.
And I hate that we're not. Okay. Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
Owens made history in the 1936 Berlin Olympics by winning 4 gold medals in 4 different track and field events in front of Hitler. But you got to remember that these Olympics were held in Nazi Germany. And the idea was that they were supposed to showcase Aryan supremacy and all that. But this black dude from Alabama kept winning and totally fucked up Hitler's big propaganda plan. It was awesome because it sort of turned into a symbol against racism and became like this beacon of hope for equality. Well, and until World War II broke out anyway and sort of fucked everything up. And so I suggest you watch Jesse Owens because it's an amazing movie. They did a movie on this whole thing too.
I'm going to have to watch that one.
It is totally fantastic. And like
Amazing.
Hitler is furious. Furious. Like,
well, I'm sure. It's his whole marketing is all
right.
messed up.
So here we start with like all this like political shit, right? You ask for iconic moments, I go right to politics. Okay, all right. And this whole podcast wasn't supposed to be about politics. Okay, fine. All right. So I got one more about politics. Okay. So right behind this one was the political statement made by, do you know this one, the Black Power salute on the podium in 1968? Have you seen like the famous like 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico made by John Carlos and Tommy Smith?
No.
The two black guys with the black gloves?
No.
Okay. So they stuck their right hands in the air with their black gloves on them. But what's super less well known was that the silver medalist was an Australian white man named Peter Norman. And he totally stood by this duo in solidarity while displaying a human rights badge. So go Norman. Like, he was helping these guys make their political statement. It was look it up on the internet. It's like super, super famous. And anyway, they totally ended up, John Carlos, Tommy Smith, and Peter Norman totally ended up being friends, knowing each other through their whole life. And it was this amazing, we need to do something. Big deal. So we use the Olympics for politics, right? That's from time to time. Well, all the time.
Breaking boundaries.
All right. Then we can lighten things up a little bit with Miracle on Ice at the Lake Placid Winter Olympics in 1980. Please tell me you watched that movie?
Is that like Miracle on 34th Street?
No. And this is so embarrassing. Okay. I'm trying to suspend judgment.
Okay.
And I want to be a better human being.
Maybe you
it's
should make me a watch list.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe I will do that. So.
We should have a watch list for the podcast.
We
There
should.
you go.
So,
Okay.
so I guess we got Jesse Owens. I don't remember the name of that one. We got
Munich.
Munich. We got Miracle on Ice. Okay, right. We got them all. So, by the way, Miracle on Ice has the best what would that be? Motivational speech by anyone. It's it's not Patrick Swayze. Kurt Russell plays the coach. You have to. It's like bone chilling to listen to his speech in the locker room. So just watch that 2-minute segment if you're gonna watch anything. It's amazing. Okay, so basically, it's when the U.S. men's hockey team, made up of all amateurs, mind you, beat the seemingly unbeatable Soviet team, because back then they were the Soviet Republic, which was made up of their entire professional team. And even bigger was the timing of it all, because really, I don't know if you remember, this is like 1980, but it was really at the height of the Cold War. Like, this was a big deal. It like transcended sports. It symbolized like David versus Goliath. A lot of people forget it was actually only the semifinal game, and the U.S. still had to go on and beat Finland in the actual final game to win the gold, which they totally did. It was probably one of the best moments in Olympic history that embodied the concept of the whole underdog spirit and the unifying power of the Olympics. Super amazing. Watch them. Okay. Then your era, Usain Bolt.
I know him.
Yeah, he deserves to be on this faux show. Usain. Who doesn't love Usain? Okay, really tall Jamaican sprinter. Basically took over like 2008 Olympics in Beijing and ran record-breaking 100-meter in 9.69 seconds. If you remember why this was so memorable, Amanda, like he was celebrating before he even crossed the finish line. Like I have like this vision, like his arms are totally spread out.
I mean,
he's looking at the crowd while he's breaking the world record. So he could have totally won by even more. Like he could have even broke it by more. He was that fast. Oh, it was amazing. Yes. Then also in 2008, you got good old Michael Phelps, insane 8 gold medals, 8 golds, 1 Olympics. That's nuts. Now, but he wasn't like naked nuts. Like he was still wearing his little weird Speedo thing. So he broke Mark Spitz's record of 7 gold set in 1972. He won like in every different stroke, butterfly, freestyle, individual medleys, everything. And if you remember, one of those golds included that like 0.01 win in like the 100-meter butterfly. Like that was iconic.
That was pretty epic.
That was epic. Yes. But then he got old and started smoking dope and stuff. But he was awesome while he lasted. So I'd say one of the greatest, if not the greatest Olympian, like of all time.
Huh. That's a big feat.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so some quick honorable mentions. Let me run through. So you have the inaugural women's marathon at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics, a total landmark for gender equality. Because before that, like they weren't even doing like a lot of women's events. Like 1984, Amanda, it fucking sucked. But then after 1984, everything started getting equalized, which was super awesome.
So in 1984, my grandfather was actually a physical trainer for the women's
What?
track and field. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Look at that. He's an OG. He's an OG trainer to
Yep.
the women that were starting it all. Good for him. All right. Then you have Eric Musambani from Equatorial Guinea. Eric the Eel. You hear the story? So he was the hero of the 2000 Sydney Olympics when he swam the 100-meter freestyle in like 2 minutes, which, by the way, was like more than twice the time of everyone else. Like they usually finish it in like 58 seconds.
Dang.
But it was so awesome because he had never seen or trained in an Olympic-sized pool before. And the whole concept of his sheer determination totally won over the crowd. Like goosebumps everywhere. Iconic, insane moment. Like Olympic folklore, baby.
I mean, he did it.
Yeah.
That's all that mattered.
Like totally. Some people would say like, really, what an idiot. Like, why would you get in the pool with... But that's part of the reason for the Olympics. That's part of what makes it fun. All right. Then Nadia Comaneci's perfect 10 in the 1976 Montreal Olympics. The first ever 10. And mind you, she subsequently went on to get 6 more perfect 10s in the same Olympics. That never happened until that point, and then get 6 in a row. Like, shout out to Nadia and Romania. Then, of course, you got Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding. Do you remember this?
I do.
And the figure skating fiasco when basically Tanya puts a hit out on Nancy. The whole Jeff Gillooly thing. Oh, that was classic. Okay, and then all the doping scandals. But none greater than the East German women of the 80s who were all jacked up on male hormones and basically looked like men and destroyed all their competition. And that's all I got.
Well, that was a good list.
Yeah.
And it had a little bit of everything.
You're welcome.
Some athletic stuff, the spirit of competition, some tragedy, and some resilience. So I will say, good work capturing it all.
Thank you.
And I guess that's why the Olympics have such a power to kind of inspire and unite people. So I love it. But, Brady, I have another question. Because I always got questions. And I think everybody kind of wants the answer to maybe this one.
What?
Well, it's actually 2 questions.
What is it? Shoot.
So why are there 5 rings and why the Olympic torch?
Okay, good ones. Let's go. All right, so the 5 Olympic rings were created in 1913 by none other than, of course, our buddy Pierre de Coubertin, and he finally unveiled them at the 1920 Antwerp Games. They symbolize the coming together of athletes from the 5 inhabited continents. It consists of 5 interlocking rings, blue, yellow, black, green, red?
Yep.
Red, okay. Set on a white background representing the continents Africa, the Americas, considered one continent, North and South America, Asia, Europe, and Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand. And the 6 colors, including the white background, were chosen because every national flag in the world includes at least one of those colors.
That's genius.
Totally was. I thought good old
I
shout
love
out to
it.
Coubertin. This Coubertin guy, he was really something, right? Really appreciate him.
He was a big thinker.
He was, absolutely. So the Olympic torch was introduced by Carl Diem, some German sports dude, in the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games. It's a shout out to the original ancient Greek games. In ancient Greece, a fire burned at the altar of Hestia, the goddess of hearth and home, during the first Olympic Games. So every year the torch is lit in a ceremony in, of course, Olympia, Greece, using a mirror to focus the sun's rays to light it. Nothing mechanical can be used to help. Then it goes through like a gazillion countries, being held by like 1,000 runners, or I guess we call them torchbearers, not really runners, right? Before basically being lit in this huge cauldron during the opening ceremony at wherever the current games is taking place.
And so this year it's France.
Yep.
However, how do they get it across the ocean?
In a boat.
So they just
The torchbearer will...
just harness it
Absolutely. They'll just go on. Yeah,
and keep it inside?
absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's totally amazing.
All right.
So there you go. Look at
Little-
that. You're a bit more sophisticated, Amanda.
A little more sophisticated.
Yeah.
So speaking of Paris, I read, because I'm in finance, and so this tracks, just go with me on this.
Go.
Is that the countries that host the Olympics do well financially, but others don't. And so why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think you bring up a good point. I will say this. Hosting the Olympics, like you just said, has some massive benefits, right? Like
Right.
It-
I mean, there's cost in it. 'cause
it
they have
works.
to build out
It works.
stuff,
So,
but
I would argue a country like France is going to do well because hosting the Olympics has some massive benefits. Like think of global viewership and visibility to that country, which totally funds growth. The tourist boost is huge for the economy and like local businesses. And because of all the construction, hospitality, all that kind of stuff, it's a big boost on jobs, which totally helps the economy. And if you manage that correctly, and that is a big if, all the infrastructure improvements like roads, sports arenas, airport renovations, like can help that country for like years to come, which in turn can attract future tourists and even like new investment firms. So in theory, it's awesome. And I think France, in this case, totally wins from this because they are set, right? But for every upside, Amanda, there's a downside. So the biggest one is that all these countries usually spend a shit ton of money to get ready and go way over budget. So before they even start, they're in massive debt.
I mean, because they don't know how to dicker, clearly.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You just nailed that.
It's going to be my new favorite word.
You're so smooth with that one.
But
I'm sort of getting that vibe, right? You love the dicker. You love the dicker. All right. Okay. Listen, but seriously, listen, if not carefully planned, all the infrastructure developments put a super strain on local labor and like totally fuck up communities. That leads to problem with the environment, screws with residents. They don't have housing anymore, which is totally what happened in Brazil in 2016. And depending on how you market it, many post-Olympic cities struggle with venues that don't get used anymore. So they can't pay off the debt. So if you don't have an Olympic after plan, you're kind of screwed. It all comes down to sustainability. And that's totally what the IOC is finally starting to look for now. Unless they're still getting paid under the table, which is way too sophisticated for this episode. So let's not go into that. But they don't want countries that like fuck with the balance of resources or have to bring them in from other countries because it's not sustainable long term. And that gets super dangerous. They're looking for countries who have a lot of infrastructure already built out that can handle shit for the most part with like not a ton of extra resources required.
All right. That makes sense then why they're picking cities like Paris in 2024 and LA in 2028.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
At first, I think there was a whole thing like, it's not fair. All the rich cities keep getting the Olympics, but it makes sense now. So there we go. We have answers, which is good. And they already have, if you think about it, a lot of the infrastructure. And they can reuse or repurpose so much stuff. And it just makes it easier all around.
It honestly, it really does. Like personally, I think they should pick like 6 places around the world and just like, literally rotate like every 4 years. Like just go from this place to this place. Because otherwise...
It's already there.
Yes.
And
otherwise you could screw this all up.
Reusing the resources.
Yep.
So speaking of that then, we know where the next 2 are.
Yep.
Where are they after that?
Okay, so Paris, France right now, right? We talked about that. Then I'll do the winter. So then Milan and Cortina, Italy. So they're sharing the Winter Olympics of 2026.
And note for anybody who doesn't know, you have your Summer Olympics.
Yep.
And then 2 years later, you have your Winter Olympics. Yep. And then 2 years later, you have your Summer Olympics.
Back and forth. So then in LA, you just said in the summer of 28, let's go. Los Angeles, doing it again. We love LA. We love LA. Then actually TBD in the winter of 2030. But the front runners are the city, or I guess cities in the French Alps. Like I don't know all the cities in the French Alps. Or right here at home in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's 2 front runners. So 2030, let's hope. And then finally, the Summer Olympics in 2032 are already figured out, and those will be held in Brisbane, Australia. First-time hosts, so let's be careful, right? Infrastructure development. First-time host for Brisbane. They did Sydney in 2000, but this is the whole infrastructure thing. They got to make sure they know what they're doing, right? And then after that, I have no idea, like 2034, and neither does the IOC. So they'll have to figure all that out. So
I feel like they would need more time.
More time than 2034? They got 10 years. They'll start figuring it out. Like they're usually 10 years out.
It's amazing and these structures get built so quickly.
I know, but when you think about it, it's awesome, but then it's terrible because you go back to Brazil in 2016, the stadiums they use, like they don't even get used. It's gross. It's super sad.
Yeah.
Right. And they did them in some random places like in the Amazon. So crazy. So you think of LA, like we're going to reuse the Coliseum. We're going to use the Staples Center. It's not Staples Center, Crypto.com. Like we're going to use all these different places. Right. So it's just like, it's so much better when you have infrastructure. Anyway.
Sustainability.
It's all about, it really is.
I do. I love it. I love it. But I hope you did maybe just a little bit more homework for the episode.
Why?
Because, I mean, you already kind of gave a couple of fun facts, but I feel like we need some more fun facts.
Oh, I did ancient Olympic fun facts.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Are you asking without asking? Are you saying you want some modern Olympic fun facts?
I do.
Is that it?
So you got it locked and loaded?
Oh, I'm loaded. I got modern Olympic fun facts ready to go.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. So the official languages of the Olympic Games are English and French, complemented by the official language of the host country. So there's 3 official languages. The relay torch and the Olympic flame are supposed to burn during the whole event. In case the flame goes out, Amanda, You're not going to believe this. It can only be reignited with a backup flame, which has been lit in Greece all the way back to the ancient games. Like Olympia, Greece is where it has to be lit.
Every year.
Well, every 2 years. And never with a regular lighter. So shit, I hope it doesn't go out. Because if it went out during the games, they have to go all the way back to Olympia, Greece, get it lit with a mirror, come all the way, run it back. Well, I don't know if they have to run it back, fly it back, whatever they have to do to the Olympic Games.
That's crazy.
It's stupid. Okay. One I think we talked about in older episodes about art from 1912 to 1948, artists participated in the Olympics. Painters, sculptors, architects, writers, and musicians all competed for medals in their respective fields.
We did talk about it in our art appreciation episode, and I still think it blows my mind. That's
Shout out
crazy.
to all these badasses, except how boring would that be to watch on television? Like somebody paintings.
I mean, that's probably why it got nixed.
He's going for gold. I hope he makes the right brush stroke. It would be so dumb. Hey, have you ever seen Olympians biting their medals during the award ceremonies and wondered why they do that?
I mean, I've seen them do it.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever wondered why. I just thought it was like a thing.
They were eating it? Is that what you thought? They were
Oh, like it's like a...
Well, it's tradition. That goes back to when merchants would check to see if a coin was really the metal they required and not like a lead forgery. A lead coin would leave teeth marks, while a gold coin would not. But it's all fun now because Olympic medals are not made of gold anymore. They're only finished with gold. They're mostly made of silver and then coated in gold. The last time they were entirely made of gold was 1904, a long time ago.
I mean, the gold standard, no longer a thing.
No longer a thing. So now they just bite them for fun and then break their teeth, and dentists love them. Okay. Next, 4 athletes have won medals in both the Summer and Winter Olympics. And only one of them, Christa Ludinger Rothberger, an East German, like really big, massive, hairy East German woman, won medals in the same year. Speed skating and sprint cycling. That's when like Winter and Summer Olympics were held in the same year. Now they're every 2 years. But like back then, same year, she totally did it.
And no, she was hairy because this is when, in the 80s, when the Germans were...
hairy. And they lived in East Germany.
That was the whole male testosterone scandal.
Yeah, you could argue that. Or you could just say it was... Germany gets very cold and women had a lot of hair. So either way, I think you're probably more right than I am. Oh, let's be honest. They were just big, hairy women. Okay, next one. Tarzan competed in the Olympics. Yeah.
Like...
Tarzan. Yes, Tarzan. Johnny Weissmuller. The athlete turned actor who played in Tarzan's 12 movies, won 5 gold medals in swimming in the 1920s.
Hey, fun fact.
Let's go Tarzan. That's
my chiropractor won in the swimming.
Wait. You know a famous Olympian?
I mean, I don't know if Mickennen's famous. I mean, I bet he is.
First of all, your grandpa hung out with like the women in 1984, and now your chiropractor. He's a chiropractor, by the way. Aren't they all a bunch of hacks?
No, ours is non-manipulative. He's quite fabulous.
I don't even know what that means.
They don't like crack your bone. It taps your atlas bone.
By the way, episode.
We should have an episode
on chiropractors. Okay, fine. All right, next one. During the 1936 Berlin Games, 2 Japanese pole vaulters tied for second place. And they weren't smart enough back then to just award 2 silvers like they do now. So instead of competing again, they literally cut the silver and bronze medals in half and fused the halves together so that each of them had half silver and half bronze.
I mean, they have a very unique medal.
They do. The 2 Japanese guys.
Nobody else has it.
Okay, so here's a list of sports that are sadly like no longer part of the Olympics anymore. Solo synchronized swimming.
Like solo. One person.
Like one person. Like what is that? What does that even mean? Like how can you be solo and synchronized? Who are you synchronizing with? That's not even a thing. That's the dumbest thing ever. Thank God that's not
why
anymore.
It's not in it anymore.
Right. We talked about tug of war. We talked about live pigeon shooting. Rope climbing, hot air ballooning. I can't even say this one. Dueling pistols? What the fuck? Dueling pistols? Like they were doing like Code Duello, like trying to shoot each other and kill each other?
When did that one go out?
I don't ask me. You have to look that up.
Okay.
Tandem bicycling, a swimming obstacle course where they used to like have shit in the water that you'd have to like crawl over and get under, or like they throw shit at you. Like,
I mean, if you're shooting each other in a duel, maybe they were just trying to see who would drown.
I don't know. Like, okay, that's all nuts. Okay, anyway. All right, next one. During the 17 days of the 2024 Summer Olympics, 10,500 athletes from 200 countries will represent 32 different sports and participate in 329 competitions in Paris. And 36 athletes will compete as part of what's called the Olympic Refugee Team.
That's a really cool fun fact.
Isn't that an awesome one? Right. Anybody not know the Olympic Refugee Team? Those are Olympians that defected from their countries that aren't participating in the Olympics for a number of reasons or won't allow it, and they want to participate, and the IOC has money to be able to support those Olympians. So shout out to the Olympic Refugee Team. And lastly, the oldest record that still stands today in modern Olympic history is over 50 years old. The American Bob Behrman, who won the long jump in the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico. His superhuman leap registered a remarkable 8.9 meters, 29.2 feet, that became an Olympic record, which to this day stands 56 years later. All the rest of the Olympic records have been broken more recently. This is the last one to remain standing.
Do you think it's going to be broken this year?
I do not. I believe this is an amazing record that will last for 100 years.
That's awesome.
I know.
Well, thanks for all the fun facts.
You got it. That's all I got. Fun facts complete.
The Olympics are truly the best.
They are.
And probably there was a gazillion fun facts for you to choose from.
Oh, there was.
So good job paring it down to something that's kind of more manageable and entertaining, and
you're welcome, as always.
Things that I'm totally going to pull out of my back pocket.
That's what you need it for, right? That's why we do it.
So you got anything else for us, or are we going to start wrapping it up?
No. That's all I got. Now go watch the Olympics.
I'm just going to get on that. Well, hopefully our listeners feel like they got the inside scoop on all things Olympics. And whether you're dreaming of racing or just cheering from your couch, remember, it's like watching a superhero movie, but without the CGI, capes, or all the other dramatic villain stuff. Sometimes.
That's right.
These are the real studs who must be just a little nuts and a lot neurotic to spend their entire lives practicing to compete for 5 minutes of glory. So, all right, Pete, sum it up for me. What do I need to know from this episode to be sort of sophisticated? Besides my fun facts.
Let's go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So watch some 2024 Summer Olympics. Duh. Or at least check your socials for updates and recaps so you can stay in the know. Like, don't go a day without knowing what's happening. Second, I would challenge yourself to pick a new sport to follow that you haven't before. It makes it way more fun. Do a little research on a sport so you know a little bit about how it all works, and then follow the event through the Olympics. I'm choosing breakdancing this year.
You didn't even mention that breakdancing was a sport.
Because I like to add something for you.
Awesome.
Right, it is. This year,
how many?
First time it's going in. Yeah. So why not? I'm going to learn it. Okay. Then after you're armed with some info, when you're at your next party, ask anyone if they've been watching the Olympics. Of course, do this during the time that the Olympics is going on. If they're super into it, then listen to them for a while and engage with them about their favorite events and maybe share yours. Remember, this is about perspective and being cultured and curious and listening to other people. So don't just jump in. And if they aren't that into it, just give them a quick and dirty on some of the fun facts that we shared just to keep it light. So you got to sort of read your audience here. And of course, share these interesting and relevant details to seem sort of sophisticated. The modern Olympics started in 1896 by some French dude named Pierre de Coubertin, because he was a history buff who loved the ancient Greeks. The 1896 games started with 43 events across 10 different sports compared to today with 329 events across 32 sports. While there are a number of benefits to the Olympics, I think the most important to remember are that the games are based on universal values of fair play, respect, and friendship, which can help people from around the world understand each other better and inspire people to overcome differences. They serve as an example of peaceful global interaction and help us build a better world. And finally, there's really only one place I could finish. Paris, 1900. The most obscure event ever created. I had to save this one. Best for last. I'll admit it was a test event. It didn't make it in, but thank God.
All right, but can you stop dickering around? What is it?
Okay. First of all, you totally used that wrong that time. You can't. That's just, you would say dicking around. You can't say dickering there because it's not about haggling.
I mean,
okay.
But dickering and dicking.
No, it's not the same.
I'm going to use dickering all the time.
Okay, fine. Okay, but second and most importantly, are you ready? Poodle clipping.
Stop it.
Poodle clipping.
Lies.
Yes. No. Over 100 athletes. Can I call them athletes? Fantastic. Raced to clip fur off of as many poodles as possible in 2 hours. And the winner was gold medalist Avril Lafleur. Like, what a Frenchie. With a total of 17 clipped poodles.
So I have so many questions.
What?
So many questions. How did they keep it fair? Like, how did they ensure all the poodles were the same size? Were they all equally tamed? Wouldn't that slow them down if the poodles were biting the athlete? And most importantly, why are they doing this in the first place? I mean, it's a French poodle, so of course the French are going to win. So,
Right. Listen, Amanda, I don't decide this stuff. I just report on the facts. And this one was like way too good to pass up. This was like the best fun fact of all time.
I mean, it's probably more of a random fact than a fun
Poodle
fact.
clipping in the Olympics.
Who would have thought it?
Done. Out.
But it never actually was in the Olympics.
It was a test event.
How do you have a test event?
That's what they do. They put it in the Olympics as a test event and they see if people like it.
Oh,
And
like
then
for a year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
got
and
it.
then they decide later.
I didn't know that. Okay. Like, oh, this is a failure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, dear listeners. That's a wrap on our race through the modern Olympics, where I'm sure we'll see world records smashed, medals won, and questionable dance moves at the opening ceremony. But seriously, who knew breakdancing was going to be an Olympic sport?
I know. I think they missed that one by like a few decades, right? Like, wasn't that the 80s? And now we decide to shove in breakdancing?
Maybe it's gotten better.
Great job, IOC.
I don't know. But from athletes pulling off the impossible to commentators pulling hamstrings trying to keep up, these games will certainly be a spectacle to remember. We'd like to think we've shared just enough information to make you either a flaming nuisance or a little more sophisticated to your fellow humans. Sort of. Remember, folks, whether you're an aspiring Olympian or just running late to work, keep aiming for gold. Well, at least bronze. And if you enjoyed this episode and found it particularly interesting, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your peeps. Until next time, keep those sneakers laced and the snacks nearby, because who needs a medal when you've got a great podcast to listen to? All right, stay curious and stay ambitious.